Chapter 8. When local bakery owner Sonny smiled at her from across the counter the next morning, Sophia thought there should be angels singing back up. "Hey, you're Vidalia's new niece, aren't you?" Sonny asked. "I didn't realize I'd been here long enough to be famous already," she said, extending a hand. "Sophia McIntyre. Sonny Jones," Sonny replied. "So what do you think of Big Falls, Sophie?" Sophia bit her lip for a second to keep from correcting her on the nickname, and answered her, glad to be distracted from worrying about whether she should sleep with Darryl Champlain or not. She wanted to, but should she? Right, conversation, distraction. What was the question again? Right, got it. "I love it here. I grew up near here, you know. Well, 50 miles away. My family moved when I was still in elementary school. And your Uncle Bobby Joe had a history here. I'm glad he came back. He's the best thing to happen to this town in a long time. That's the consensus among the gossips anyway. Odd he ended up back here, though. And now you're here, too," Sonny said. "They say this town chooses her residents. You know that?" Sophia looked at her, brows raised, almost perking her ears to hear more. "The ones who belong here can't seem to leave. So how about you? You gonna stay?" She opened her mouth to say no, but found the word didn't want to come out. She laughed at herself for wondering if some force was preventing it. "I didn't mean to pry," Sonny said quickly, mistaking her long silence for unwillingness to answer. "Who'd want to stay here anyway? It's gonna be miserable having to go all the way to Tucker Lake for everything from ulcers to typhus." Ulcers to... what now? Some of the small-town Oklahoma euphemisms had come right back to her, but as far as Sophia knew, she'd never heard that one before. "You haven't heard? Doc is quitting and moving to Boca, some big retirement community with golf carts and swimming pools, just like that." She snapped her fingers. "Well, he is 73, but... I'm sorry, Sophie. Didn't mean to go off like that. What can I get for you?" Sophie stood there a minute, her brain spewing a dozen reasons why a perfect stranger would just happen to mention that the local doctor was leaving the town in a lurch. But for the life of her, she couldn't think of one. Other than her letter to Santa, at least. It felt good to think that. It surprised her how good it felt. Kind of innocent. She felt like she'd felt as a little girl who believed in Santa Claus like she believed in her own mama. She'd been that little girl. Maybe she wanted to believe in something again. Sonny was smiling, waiting for her to place her order. Sophia blinked out of what could only be described as a blinding rush of Christmas spirit and said, "Right, a dozen half-moons, please. I've got inventory today and I want to bribe people to help me. I'll throw in a couple of extras then." Sonny opened a glass case and used tongs to load the cookies into a wax paper-lined pink cardboard box. She closed the lid and used a couple of pieces of masking tape to seal it. Then she pulled off her gloves and punched a few buttons on the oversized antique cash register. Sophia paid in cash and told Sonny to keep the change. Then she walked out of the bakery, blinking slowly and wondering if what she thought had happened had actually happened. Was this a sign? Was this her answer? Man, if the local Santa was as good as she was starting to think he was, the children of Big Falls were in for one heck of a Christmas. Sophia wrestled with her decision all the way back to the Long Branch. She was so wound up she had barely slept all night long, and when she had, the dreams had been... She closed her eyes and a shiver ran up her spine. She was a single adult woman, a doctor. She wanted to have sex with a willing, gorgeous, funny, smart hunk who danced like a god and smelled even better. So she was going to. She had a key to the Long Branch. Her cousins wanted her to have access to the place at all times. Hell, they'd wanted her to use one of the rooms upstairs, but she'd refused. Working for the boys was enough. She didn't want to live with them, too. But having that key sure did make for easy access. She parked her car round back, disappointed that Darryl's wasn't there. Didn't matter. He couldn't have gone far. She could text him, tell him to come back to his room, ASAP. She smiled, imagining how he'd react to that, and how fast he could get there. It had better be fast, or she might chicken out. She let herself in through the kitchen. "Hello? Anyone here?" But her own voice just echoed back at her. She headed through the kitchen and into the bar, her shoes clicking on the hardwood. It smelled like that orange-scented oil they used on every inch of hardwood in the building, until the smell of the Christmas tree took over. She peeked into the dining room, but it was empty. Joey and Robert had rooms upstairs, but their SUVs weren't there. Jason was probably at that place he'd bought. Vidalia said it was an old blacksmith's shop that had been closed down for 100 years. No one knew what the heck Jason McIntyre wanted with the broken-down old place, and when asked, he usually muttered something about it being historic and changed the subject. The cousins were seldom at the saloon during the mornings, because their new stepmother Vidalia and the family that came with her tended to keep them pretty busy. Vidalia's 5 daughters, their husbands, and their kids were a big, noisy, welcoming brood, and they would wrap Sophia right up in their cocoon if they could. She'd been in town long enough to share one Sunday dinner with the bunch so far. It had felt a little bit uncomfortable to be surrounded by so many people who wanted to be family, but weren't really. And yet the more time she spent with them, the more it felt as if maybe they could be. She went into Jason's unlocked office, took the keyring right off the rack, and then she headed upstairs and rapped on Joey's door, just to be sure. No answer. Then she tried Robert's. Nothing. Okay, good. The place was empty. She headed to the remaining guest room, the one the boys had wanted her to use, and tried a key, then another. The third one fit. Biting her lip and telling herself she wasn't committing too terrible a sin, she unlocked Darryl Champlain's door and tiptoed inside. The room was simple and clean. Beige carpet, nice and thick. King-size bed, sort of made up, and there were clothes on the floor. The bathroom door was closed. There were 2 nightstands, one on either side of the bed, and one of them had a photograph of her on it. Not in a frame or anything, just lying there on top of a file folder. Everything in Sophia went cold. What the hell did this mean? She turned a slow circle, scanning the room, looking for something, anything to tell her what was going on here. Why would he have a picture of her? Unless he was working for Skylar. Her spinal fluid iced over. Keys and a wallet lay on top of a nightstand, along with that badge holder she'd already seen, the one with his Secret Service badge and ID. She picked up the wallet, not the badge one, but the regular one, thinking that would be the best place to find out what he was really up to. And then she froze, holding it in her hands, open, as her brain finally asked her how his wallet could be here if he wasn't. And suddenly the closed bathroom door opened, and he stepped out wearing nothing but a towel. He looked at her and his brows bunched. "What are you doing in my room, Sophie?" She couldn't look at him. It hurt to look at him, so she lowered her eyes and they fell on the open wallet in her hand, and on the ID card inside it. Darryl Champlain, licensed private investigator, Private Security Services. She lifted her head again. "What are you doing in my life, Darryl?" She tossed the wallet onto the bed. "I'll tell you what, Mr. Private Eye. I'll give you till the end of the day to get out of town. You stick around here any longer and your ass is going to be very, very sorry." She lurched toward the door, but he stepped right into her path and said, "It's not what you think." "No? You're not spying on me for pay?" He tipped his head to one side just a little. "Well, yeah, but—" "Get out of my way. Sophie, just wait. Just give me 3 seconds." He closed his hands around her shoulders as he said it. They were warm and they felt good. And she was so damn disappointed she was on the edge of tears. All this letter to Santa baloney had made her hope. More than hope. It had made her believe. She'd been cleared legally. Her medical license was safe. She'd been vindicated. And now there was a glimmer of potential about her life's work, too. A way she might be able to keep doing what she loved right here in the town she had somehow also started to love. She'd started to think maybe Darryl was the one. Yeah, she'd let herself get a little bit carried away with the whole believing in Santa Claus thing, hadn't she? Darryl's big hand slid down her arms and closed around hers. Her eyes followed. Big mistake, because that meant looking at his all but naked body. His chest was so smooth and hard that her hands were aching to run across it. And the way that towel was hitched over one hip and slung low across the other made her want to reach up and yank it away. He let go of her hands, and damning herself for being an idiot, she pressed them to his chest. She couldn't help herself. He stood stock still for just a second, waiting. She was waiting too, mainly to see if she had the strength to walk away. But she didn't. Hell, she didn't want to. She moved her palms over his skin, and his arms curled around her, pulled her body to his. She felt the bulge behind the towel and closed her eyes in delicious longing. It had been a long time. He closed his hands on her shoulders. "Please let me explain," he asked softly, his voice as raspy as his still unshaven face. She lifted her head, stared into his eyes, saw the desire burning there, and felt a rush of feminine power. "Not right now," she said. "Just kiss me." So he did. Only not the way she'd expected him to. He slid one hand around to her nape and slowly threaded his fingers up into her hair, sending chills and shivers all the way down her spine. Then he slid the other hand around her waist, inching his way to the small of her back to urge her a little bit closer. He lowered his head slowly, so slowly she ached for him to hurry. His eyes held hers until she closed them, and then, finally, he touched his soft, soft lips to hers, and her bones melted. He moved them, gently, softly, capturing, suckling, releasing, over and over. And then he lifted his head away, took 2 steps backward, and stood there. "Not until you let me explain." Sophia felt ridiculously cold now that his arms were no longer around her. She shivered, and that seemed to snap her out of the spell. She opened her mouth but couldn't speak, didn't know what to say. She didn't want to hear that he was working for Skylar, and she didn't want to hear him lie to her. She just wanted him. She picked up the pieces of her dignity, turned and walked out of the room, pulling the door closed behind her. And then she ran the rest of the way down the stairs, out through the kitchen to her car, jumped in, and sped away. The cookies were still on the passenger seat, and inventory was going to have to wait.